A stray dog gets on the bus and does something strange that made everyone scream in dismay. A strange dog gets on a bus and does something that left everyone in shock. Carmine was a poor boy who was seen wandering up and down the streets every day, searching through other people's trash for something to eat or to wear, and who seemed to have no adult to take care of him. His real name was not Carmine, and no one ever knew it, but they had started calling him that after he spilled a large can of red paint by mistake, the color of which did not leave him for several days because he did not bathe. Everyone treated him well and sometimes gave him a handout or two, but no one ever bothered to know the boy's story or to go deeper into his situation. Since his presence did not bother anyone too much, they simply let him be without bothering him, but neither did they worry about him when he did not show up one day for some reason, or when he arrived with signs of visible mistreatment. Carmine had grown accustomed to having no friends and sharing his loneliness with himself, so he talked to himself, and everyone thought that he had started to go crazy. True to his usual indolent attitude, no one sought to help him in any other way, and as he was harmless, they left him alone. They never knew that despite his reclusive and independent personality, at just 13 years old, he would have been happy with a friend or someone to approach him and show they cared, but that never happened. 2 years later, while searching through the garbage and alleyways, Carmine heard a faint whisper that sounded like a desperate plea for help, and when he went to look, he found a small puppy, maybe a couple of months old, who, as soon as he saw it, jumped on him in fear and never left his side. Carmine realized that there were several cats around that had been intimidating him, and perhaps had caused him to stray from his mother. But now the little dog had him, and although he had nothing to eat and even less to give to his new pet, now that he finally had a friend, he wouldn't lose him for anything in the world. So it was that the eternal loner was joined by a faithful friend, a cute little dog who would give his life for his master, as he would also do if necessary. With time, they also came to understand that it was not necessary for Carmine to give him any orders, because with a simple change of position, the dog knew what he wanted. For almost a year, the puppy had no name. Carmine could not decide on any of them because they all seemed too little for his wonderful companion. Until one day, he found a school booklet with Greek myths in the dustbin. Carmine knew how to read because he had also learned to read from the primers he had found, and with a little help from a couple of people. And reading those fantastic myths, he found the perfect name for his dog, Minos. It was the name of a king, and it was just what his dog was for him, so he didn't hesitate. Besides, the little animal had already become a big mast and deserved the best name. Carmine, about to turn 18, realized that it was no longer enough to survive on other people's leftovers in the garbage. He needed money. He wanted a stable place to live, even if it was just a small room, a place that would be a home for both of them. And for that, they would have to find a way to earn a few pesos. Soon, Carmine found the talent that would amuse onlookers and help them make money. When Carmine hummed a song, the dog would immediately start howling as if trying to follow his master's rhythm, and he realized that it was a very cute and funny scene to watch. So he immediately started rehearsing a couple of songs with Minos and went to try his luck in a park. Although they were a novelty for a couple of days, people got used to seeing them, and then they didn't give them anything anymore. They had to be on the move if they wanted different people to see them, and so it occurred to Carmine that public transportation was a better option, and he was counting on the drivers to let him get on without paying, to entertain the passengers for a while, but he was wrong. All the drivers demanded that he pay them, and that he wouldn't even think of taking a stray dog on board. Carmine was overwhelmed by the lack of cooperation from people, until he met the only driver who gave him the opportunity, and to whom he was always grateful. Carmine knew that the passengers would not dislike his performance, and he was right, because from the first moment, people applauded and collaborated with him. That driver talked to other companions and managed to get 2 more to let Carmine and Minos on board. and from that moment on, the boy felt he had a real job, because he had to arrive on time so as not to miss any route, and he had to organize himself to distribute the days in different schedules and reach as many people as possible. It was quite a challenge, but thanks to this, he was also able to achieve what he had wished for. Now he had a room in a house that had a big yard where he let Minos stay. And since he worked, he was grateful to have a bathroom to take a shower and wash his old clothes, and go every day clean to meet his schedule. For the first time in his whole life, Carmine knew what it felt like to have something stable, because he had already known happiness since he had met Minos, who was his main engine for everything, and who did not let laziness win him over, and made him go out every day, and not lose hope that his situation would continue to improve every day. But one day, things finally changed, but not for the better. Carmine and Minos had already spent 2 years with their new life, working on the buses, when an ungrateful encounter ended the life of Carmine, who said goodbye to the world at the age of 20. Because of a senseless fight in which he was not involved, but had tried to defend a woman whom her husband was beating mercilessly, the man suddenly pulled out a dagger and killed the young man so quickly that not even Minos could prevent it from happening. Although he did not let him escape from the scene without a couple of good wounds from his angry and sad fangs. Minos did not part from his friend's corpse until they arrived to pick him up. He still followed the ambulance, running to the hospital, and then he learned that they had taken him out to bury him in a pit without any kind of ritual. From that day on, Minos continued to visit him every day. The only visitor to that nameless pit was the faithful dog, who would not abandon him even after death. But Minos would later do something even more surprising. Moved perhaps by grief, by habit, and by the feeling that he still had something of Carmine left, he continued to follow the timetables of the bus routes every day. On the first day, when the driver who helped them at the beginning saw the dog alone, he knew that Carmine had died. He never knew how or where his body was, but he cried and hugged the dog and told him that he would continue to wait for him every day as always. And so it was for several months, and before the astonished gaze of the passengers, the dog would get on the bus and start howling as if trying to follow some unknown melody. And when he finished, he would stay waiting, as if telling everyone to give them something to eat, and thanks to that, Minos did not go hungry. But even though the drivers took care of him and he was well fed, no one could say that Minos was not a faithful dog. He had lost what he loved most, and now did the only thing he knew, just to feel a little closer to Carmine. Until exactly 1 year after his master's death, his heart could no longer bear the grief, and he died peacefully at the end of a road next to the usual driver, who had wanted to know where Carmine was to bury him with him. But still, he gave him a solemn burial with honors. Doggies carry inside them doses of love that hardly a human ever feels in his life. These tender animals accept their masters as they are, without judging them, without asking questions, and with only affection to give. They are faithful until the last moment, until the last breath, and even after death, their presence is still felt, and you can perceive that their love transcends all imposed limits and endures in memory forever. And when it is the master who dies first, they can suffer as much as Minos, who did the impossible to meet his master again, with whom he was surely reunited at the end, to share an eternal life together. If you liked this story, like and share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm Max, and see you in the next story.